This review has been a long time coming, like a really long time. Back in 2016, all of those years ago, several months after I started my YouTube channel, I reviewed a show called Xiaolin Chronicles. Now, at the time, I referred to that review as my magnum opus. It was the culmination of a year's worth of reviewing experience to finally review a show that I so deeply despised. For those who don't know, Xiaolin Chronicles was a show produced by Disney. Explaining the show is a bit complicated because Disney made it so complicated. The show is essentially a reboot of the show Xiaolin Showdown, which aired in 2013, 7 years after the original had ended. What makes this entire scenario so confusing is the fact that it's also a sequel, kind of? The first episode of the show acts like it's a sequel series of sorts, referencing the past series and even acknowledging its own retcons.
Dashi triumphed, and Wu Ya was forever imprisoned in a simple wooden puzzle box.
In the end, Dashi triumphed, trapping Wu Ya in a spring.
I thought he trapped her in a puzzle box.
The danger thwart.
So, the retcons itself adds to the confusion, despite both series sharing a good chunk of content. A lot of the show was renamed or retconned. Like, Disney decided to make really minor changes in what seemed like random. Like, it's really random. One common belief is that Disney didn't own the full rights of the stuff in the show. So much of it had to be changed, and this all culminates into a very complex circumstance, all which ends in a massively disappointing show. I could go on and on about Xiaolin Chronicles. Heck, even the original review was 24 minutes long. Nowadays, I rarely break past 10 minutes in my reviews, but today isn't about that abomination of a show. Today, we will be looking at the show that preceded it, Xiaolin Showdown. One of the many shows that made up the amazing mid-2000s Cartoon Network lineup. The show revolves around 4 Xiaolin apprentices who aim to retrieve the hidden artifacts known as Xingangwu in order to keep them out of the hands of those with evil intent. Such a simple premise, but its execution is what really drives it home. I mean, to help demonstrate the point, we will be looking at the very first episode of the show. While first episodes aren't usually the best way to showcase the quality of an entire series, I feel like this episode will help properly demonstrate the foundation that the show is built on, which in turn will help us evaluate the merits of the show. In any case, let's get started. This is Xiaolin Showdown, the journey of 1,000 miles. The episode begins with a prologue that tells us of a legendary battle between the forces of good and evil. After its conclusion, the mystical artifacts known as the Xingangwu were hidden across the earth. With generations of Xiaolin monks training for the day evil may rise up once again. We cut to the present day, where a Xiaolin apprentice named Omi is training in the rain. Omi is a very calculated and literal character. He takes everything seriously and gives his full devotion to becoming a proper Xiaolin dragon. Now, as you can imagine, his serious demeanor gets tested when 3 new students arrive at the temple. Raimundo, Kimiko, and Clay, 3 different students of different ethnicities from different parts of the world, each unique in personality, but all contrasting that of Omi. You can already tell where they are going with this, but personally, I feel that the character dynamic here is one of the show's strongest points. These 4 characters have such drastically different personalities and backgrounds, and yet such variety develops in the other characters in ways they couldn't have been developed otherwise. It's clear from the first episode alone that these 4 vastly different characters were put together for that very reason. And as the series progressed, these developing characters add so much to the overall story that had their execution been poorly done, the show itself could have been hindered severely. Some shows can survive even with poorly done characters, but this show really had to get these 4 characters just right to make everything work. And thankfully, they did. Back to the plot. We see that the evil sorceress Wu Ya from the prologue at the beginning has been freed by the evil boy genius Jack Spicer. Yet another well-done character dynamic, with Wuya being a no-nonsense tyrannical witch, while Jack is a very laid-back and overly confident character in his abilities. This leads him to treat his conquest for world domination as more of a game. Even from one episode, you can see that their dynamic is perfect for the antagonist role. And what better showcase for it than now, as Wuya's freedom has caused the Earth to become unbalanced, and the Xingangwu is now being unearthed all across the world. Both the new Xiaolin warriors and Jack Spicer race to collect the first Xingangwu in a scene that perfectly encapsulates the premise of the show.
You cannot rule the Earth yet. You have but one Xingangwu.
How many are there?
Hundreds!
What?
Jack Spicer gets away with the Mantis flip coin. However, in a very quick scene, the warriors manage to snag the Teuton tunic. With the odds evened, both teams go on to collect the third item revealed. However, Jack Spicer and Omi grab onto it at the same time, leading to the show's namesake, a Xiaolin Showdown. This event occurs when two warriors who grab onto a Xingangwu reach a stalemate. The one who declares a Xiaolin Showdown gets to decide the conditions of the showdown, and most showdowns tend to have very simple premises, like a race but mixed with a mystical presence that makes the games more interesting. Both sides will wager a Xingangwu they have in their possession, which they can also use to help them in the showdown. Once that's all decided, the showdown begins. In this case, Omi chooses to race across these stones, in which the showdown leaves nothing but the stones intact. With Jack's Xingangwu giving them an acrobatic advantage, it would seem all over for Omi, but Jack decides to have fun and just screw with Omi, despite him being very capable of easily winning. Omi uses everything his new friends have taught him, including the idea to pant Jack Spicer, making him the winner of the race. They win the Xingangwu, Jack Spicer leaves defeated and pantsless, and the warriors look forward to the long path ahead of them. And that was Xiaolin Showdown. Such a simple premise whose execution has earned it a legendary status. They took the foundation set in this episode and crafted a series that was one of the most amazing shows that aired in the mid-2000s. It was an amazing show then, and nearly 20 years later, it still holds up amazingly. The same can't be said about the Disney series, mind you, but looking at where that failed, you can easily see what this series did right. Though there have been some people who have enjoyed the Disney series, and no judgment here, which is fine. Everyone has their own tastes. But it's easy to see why people would get so upset at Chronicles when you realize that the original series ended on a cliffhanger. Xiaolin Showdown ended at a very specific moment when the characters reached a new point of evolution for them. Not one that works for an end of a series, but one that clearly shows they have more that needs developing. People wanted to see these characters grow more, and the Disney series ruins any chance of that ever happening. So from that perspective, you can easily see why fans of the original would despise Chronicles' existence. That being said, there are also many elements of Chronicles that showed a clear lack of understanding of what made the original so great. The amazing and well-executed character dynamic of Showdown is just gone. Many characters suffer severe personality changes that completely ruin them, which clearly shows how properly Showdown's execution had to be. I'll have to stop there, or else I'll just go into deep about everything that Chronicles does so poorly, and this review isn't about that show. But the reason I keep bringing up Chronicles is to help illustrate the point of what the original show did so right. Though I keep going on and on and on about the character dynamic, primarily because it is a major aspect of this show's appeal. But what else does a show have to rely on? It's a simple premise of collecting an untold amount of random items is properly done here. The Xingangwu doesn't rely on the plot is intrinsic of the Xingangwu. They aren't just a marketing ploy to sell toys. These artifacts in the show serve the plot by giving the characters a wide range of abilities that work so well off the current plot. What's more, is that the show is beyond creative with how these artifacts are used. You're always left wondering how these characters are going to get out of certain situations, only to realize that the item they currently have can be used in some way you never expected otherwise. To give an example, in one episode, a character gets eaten alive by a giant monster. The only item they have is a pair of chopsticks that can shrink them. How did they get out of that situation?
Looks like Dojo's gonna sweat the little guy out.
by shrinking themselves to microscopic size so that they can escape the monster through their sweat. I know, it's a very odd example to pull from, but that just goes to show the level of creativity the show has. The unexpected nature of the show is also a huge benefit to it. And while it has many story beats you could call from a mile away, there are multiple times that the story makes a completely unexpected turn. And most notable of these turns is in fact that the heroes don't always win. Even when it seems like a character learned from some moral that would usually overcome the odds, they end up losing. Surprises like that help keep you invested in the ongoing plot. It adds more weight to the scenarios the characters go through, and you can't always know if they're going to overcome the odds or lose. Again, I could go on and on about this show, but no matter how much praise I give it, nothing can beat simply saying, just go watch it. Go watch it! It's easily in my top 10 favorite cartoon lineup, and recommending it could not be easier. Especially in 2020, you're staying at home anyway, just go watch it. Even if this entire review hasn't sold you, I insist you watch the show yourself before making a judgment on it. The praises I give the show pales in comparison to how it really is. I just hope this review has helped some newcomers discover the show, and to help those who haven't seen it in so long that they feel the need to relive its greatness. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the review. If you'd like to support the channel, then be sure to subscribe as it really helps support the content we make. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.